Oh man. We need you to hit him with the jutsu from the jump. Hit him with the jutsu. Hit it. Go!
Poof. The views and opinions expressed in this program are strictly those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of associated brands or figures, and some content may not be appropriate for sensitive listeners. Poof.
Smooth. Sweeter than wine. I hope y'all didn't jump to any conclusions last episode, considering it was our Big 23.
Was it?
Oh, yeah. It was the Jumpman special.
No, it's my cousin's 23rd birthday today, so we all have to wear Jordans and shit.
Yo, shout outs to not only Kuma, it was his birthday yesterday.
Happy born day.
Yo, it was Kiyo's birthday too.
Happy born day.
All these damn birthdays.
July 9th.
Why are we jumping all over the calendar?
Because I want this shit to be over. 2021, I refuse to consent that it won. The fight's over. Give it up. Where's 2022 at?
Around the corner. Be here before you know it.
Yo, you ain't lying. We're almost halfway through July already. Boomsday celebrations on the 4th went as per expected. Everyone was blowing up everything in the city long before the fireworks were supposed to start. Noise complaints running rampant. And my poor doggo left wondering, why is the sky falling? It was an interesting week, to be sure.
Why do we do this?
I never understood that. You know, yo, hey, crewman, your captain's got a question for you. Why is it exactly that we blow things up when it comes to celebrating combat veterans and battles and stuff? Leave it to people who have never been shot at or blown up to enjoy blowing things up.
I was about to ask, why are you asking such a civilian-directed question?
Well, because I'm surrounded by, soldiers of a different kind. But not the kind that I had to endure. So it's just a thought, you know? Like, what is it that I'm
going to answer that for you real quick. Civilians don't think about enlisted things. Full stop.
True. They sure as hell don't think about enlisted things. That's why they don't think about soldiers at all until one of us is in front of them.
And even then, it's just to ask you some dumb shit like, where'd you get the jacket for the dog?
Yeah, that was a weird question. Just coming out of Newtown, Macon, and gentleman with a black and brown pit bull comes walking. Well, actually, he was a staffy. He was short, big old blocky head. So it was him and his staff, and he's like, "Yeah, I was trying to get a vest for him," and I'm like, "Okay, for what though?" I'm like, you can't just put a vest on him and bring him inside places if that's what you were trying to do. It's not that kind of dog. And he's like, oh, yeah, well, and I'm like, yeah, Amazon. And I recommend you get one of the vests that doesn't have, like, all the patches and stuff because you don't need them. And he's like, I was thinking about getting him trained. I'm like, so then you have to get his canine good citizenship. And then after that, you have to go through a couple of months of rigorous training for him and make sure that he can pass everything and, respond accurately to not only hand commands but verbal commands and make sure that he's focused and locked in on you and that he doesn't start taking commands from other people randomly. And it's just a lot of stuff. It's a lot more than just putting a vest on your dog. It's a lot more than your dog being friendly. Believe it or not, your dog being friendly with everybody is a detriment.
What?
Yeah, stop buying those fucking red vests for $112, slapping it on your dog and saying, I have a service dog.
Oh, boy.
Please stop doing that.
Is an emotional support a service?
Absolutely the fuck not.
Not for dogs or people.
When you're sitting there just, look, emotional support, oh, you mean the thing that you just like to pet while it sits in your lap? That's not emotional support. You just like petting your dog. There's a difference. Look, I get it. Bringing your dog everywhere sounds fun. Sounds cool. Until you realize everywhere means everywhere. Let me tell y'all something.
But I can just leave them at home when I don't need to bring them somewhere, right?
So then you don't need them at all, huh?
Who's supporting your emotions when you're not home?
Right, exactly. So I guess you don't need a dog that provides a service. You know what I mean? If you only need emotional support sometimes, then I guess that motherfucker can wait at home. Speaking of conflict, though. Well, crewman, you knew I wouldn't leave you without a fun little convo to talk about today. You thought it was going to be something as petty as that? Oh, no.
Nope.
Mm-mm-mm. Now, we were talking last week at the end of the episode. We jumped right into a bit of a shonen tale that is far from over. You know, I'm sure our little would-be pirate, wannabe samurai of a young man would have definitely benefited from what we're going to talk about today. Because, you know, when brute force failed, and when emotions overwhelmed him, he just gave in to further enhancing that brute force. Hell, he fought the wind. Hell, he'd fight the tide. Hell, he'd fight anything. Especially if it meant not having to deal with any conflict he simply could not fight. Now, granted, I don't think, even now that I'm older, much has changed in that regard. You know, if I'm having a disagreement with somebody and we don't seem to be able to see eye to eye, my crewman can verify. I will be the first one to go, yo, man, let's go out back and scrap real quick. Let's go scrap. Hands off the face. We don't want to fuck each other's faces up. Let's go scrap. Let's get this shit over with. Get it out your system. And then maybe once we're both wore out and tired, we can talk. Because we can't even throw fists. We may as well try to talk again. And believe it or not, you have a different level of respect for a guy that knocked the fucking wind out of you and then took a punch right afterwards. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain level of respect that you now have for that person that you could never agree with after you've exchanged blows. And as simple of a resolution as that is, it's not the hardest option, which is, to be honest, why the young warrior version of myself definitely took that route every time. If you didn't have to deal with the emotion behind the conflict, and if you could just swing your way out of it, why not? Well, I can tell you now, little me in the past. We'll get to your sword-swinging antics towards the end of the episode, I promise you. But sometimes the harder road is the best road traveled. We all deal with bad news, right?
It happens.
Now, you ever had somebody close to you have to deliver some disappointing news?
I'm pretty sure. Can't call any to mind right this second, but I'm pretty sure.
Even more so, hey, man, look. So, I was heading out of the apartment complex. You hit your friend's car. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, a million factors just went to your fucking head, right? You're like, oh, shit, I think I just hit that. Well, now, there's a couple things you could do. Now, you could stop, you could get out, you could look, you could assess the situation, you know, go ahead, notify your friend and all this other stuff, you know, but, oh, shit, I'm also running late. I'm running late for work. Fuck. Fuck. I don't got time. I gotta figure this out. And in that situation, sometimes you might just run. Now, after that, there is no doing that first thing, that perfect run, right? That, oh, let me calm down, let me call people, let me do this, let me do that, let me do. As much as that is the right answer, let's be real with ourselves. A lot of times when we're confronted with the right answer, especially when the right answer is a bunch of steps that might involve some very emotional and difficult things, like telling your friend, hey, I done goofed. Yeah. Hey there, Pete. I goofed. Gosh. I think I took the front end of your car off. You know, it may be making that call and be like, yo, dude, especially when it's first thing in the morning, that's some scary shit. That's some scary shit. That's like flashbacks to when you were a kid and you got caught with your hand in the cookie jar levels of, oh, shit. Because no one wants to be the bearer of the bad news for a friend. Least of all, nobody wants to be the bearer of bad news and be the cause of said bad news. And then on top of that, you already...
Don't nobody bring me no bad news.
Like, you're already behind and everything. You know, you don't want it to get any bigger. And seeing in that moment of, you know, we'll just straight up call it survival mode, self-preservation, you're going to have that bit of, I got to take care of myself in this one. So you remove yourself from the situation. And then we can imagine what could happen from there. But instead, let's look at the aftermath. Because eventually you're going to have to deal with the conflict, right? Eventually you're going to have to deal with the conflict of your mistake. So, when you are talking to that person, and you are explaining to them, hey, so, this is what happened. XYZ, I hit your car. I didn't mean to. I was in a huge hurry, and I panicked, and I fucking just sped off. No, I shouldn't have did that. Definitely shouldn't have did that shit. But, I'm here. I'm trying to help you come to a resolution now. I just wanted to explain where I was at. Now, first of all, folks, it is up to the person whom's you wronged, whether they want to hear this or not. And if they don't, you've got to accept that. That's a really important part here. You have to accept that. If they don't want to hear what you have to say after they've already discovered that you've done wrong. Okay? See, just in case you guys weren't paying attention, the key note here is the person you wronged knows they've been wronged by you already. Okay?
And has no idea why.
Doesn't have a fucking clue why. So in their mind, what the fuck? My friend just did this thing, and it just ran off and didn't do, what the fuck? So that's where their mind is at, right? In your mind, where you're at, you're in the hot seat, which nobody likes. And you gotta explain why a mistake happened and why you didn't tell anyone it was a mistake. Because the moment a mistake isn't spoken about, what does it become?
Speculative clusterfuck. These are words that come to mind.
It becomes intent. It becomes intentional. When you don't tell the mistake you made, when you're not forthcoming with the mistake you made, it can be perceived as intentional. And perception is 9/10 of every individual person's reality. We know that, right? Mm-hmm. So, if a person perceived that they were wronged, and you didn't step up in the beginning to go, no, it was not intentional, it's going to be much harder to have that conversation later, and it's going to be much harder to convince them otherwise. You don't want to put yourself in that position, So, how do you prevent that? You got to make that first move. Now, for the person that you're speaking to, the person who is wronged, right? Again, they don't have to listen to shit. But, from a personal standpoint, I think one of the easiest ways for somebody, and again, you don't have to hear this person out that's coming at you, those who were wronged, but when you are in that conversation, you take control of that conversation, and you say this every time. Look, I don't know why you did it, but this is what happened. And what happened made me feel like this. Boom, boom, boom. You lay that out first and foremost. then there's no confusion here. We're aware that there was a conflict. We're aware the conflict wasn't resolved. You have now let the person that caused this issue know that it has directly affected you. Now it's up to them to explain why it is they did those things that led to that. You do that calmly enough in a conversation, you will get the answer you're looking for. And honestly, if the person gets mad and flustered by you doing that, well, you're basically dealing with a narcissist at that point, and you don't need to deal with that. So go with option A of not hearing them out at all.
In the pursuit of people having better conversations, I think it's always good to look at it from the standpoint of, regardless of the intention, the impact, all of that, what have you, it's always great to go into a conflict not looking at it as a conflict, because saying it that way puts it as a you versus them. And it's always, if this is a person that's close to you, you care about in any capacity, it's y'all versus the problem, not one of you versus the other.
I'm gonna give y'all some tools. All right, so accountability isn't one of these things that just always has to happen after the fact. That doesn't just mean owning up for some shit that happened. And the sooner you own your situation and you know what's happening in your life, the more control you have in what's to come. And so in that particular scenario, you know, we have these things called agreements. Some are unspoken, some are explicit, but there's certain things that we kind of expect of ourselves, and certain things we expect of each other, whether it's said or not said. Like, I don't expect one of my friends to slam a door in my face, even if we've never had that conversation. That's just not one of those things we expect to happen, you know. And so, but when it comes to ourselves, all right, so from the details I heard in the story, one of the factors was somebody was running late. So the reason that they didn't make that initial contact after the thing happened was because they were running late. Well, what agreements did you break with yourself before that? You know what time you have to be to work. What did you put in place to ensure that you would be able to get to work on time? You know, sometimes meteors fall on the highway, but in most cases that's not what's happening. And sometimes it's oversleeping. Sometimes it's any number of factors. But then that's why, as human beings, we have to consider the fact that we are human, you know. So it's like, so there just came a point in life where I stopped just relying on remembering dates and times and stuff like that. And then the second somebody would tell me something, I would make sure I put it in my calendar. I make an alert on my phone or something right then. Not it doesn't have anything to do with, I don't think my memory is reliable, but it's, you have this tool right there for you. So, and then what that'll allow you to do is be able to keep up with even more things. And then that allows you to be even more effective as a person throughout life. Because even if you have a great memory, now you have a tool that allows you to keep up with even more beyond that. And then have more results in life, you know? So it's like, so after it's already happened, there's only so much you can do. You know, it's just like if you accidentally kill somebody, like you can be playing around with a gun or anything could happen, and you know, and it's a person you care about, and then you shoot and kill them. The only thing that matters in that moment is that you just shot and killed the person you care about.
Bingo.
You know what I'm saying?
There.
So it's like, you probably should have been playing with the guns. It's like, it's certain stuff that you could do ahead of time that wouldn't even put you in that situation to begin with. It's kind of like, even like with the whole cheating thing, right? You know what kind of places and around what kind of people you have a high likelihood of fucking or getting fucked or whatever. Ain't nobody accidentally cheated with anybody at the club when they kept their ass at home. Like if you know you one of them people that's susceptible, maybe you don't know whether or not you're susceptible. But one thing is for sure and for certain, in the comfort of your own home with your doors locked, you ain't fucking nobody.
That you're not supposed to.
So we let people slide with so many things simply because it's so common. But then when you have these conversations with effective people who live the kind of lives that they want and they don't seem to run into, like, oh, that person's just lucky, they don't ever run into conflict. No, it's because the motherfucker did what they had to do within themselves and with their own situation, so they wouldn't even run into those type of situations. So yeah, just consider that. Just look a few steps ahead. How far back can you go with accountability?
I mean, there you go. Because again, in that moment, the conflict is what matters, not how you feel. Mm-hmm. I don't know who needs to hear this. Of course, none of our crewmen need to hear this, but your triggers are not the person that you are engaging's responsibility. Mm-hmm. In other words, if you are in a situation and your anxiety starts to spark, or you start to feel your post-traumatic stress start to kick in, or you start to, any of those things that you can feel these things. Like, come on, crewman, I'm coming at you from somebody who suffers from these things himself. You feel when these episodes are starting to come on. You need to communicate that and go, you know what? I got to take a step away. I got to take a step away from this. I'm not running from this situation. I just need to let you know my headspace is kind of fucky right now, and I want to resolve this. But I cannot do it as I am right now.
As we're speaking from that place in particular, I got a few, not necessarily guidelines, but just a couple of things y'all can use as examples. If you are the type of person to shy away from difficult conversations, conflict, if you're not particularly argumentative, which that can work to your benefit sometimes. But are you getting overwhelmed in a conversation? Use your outside voice. Don't shout, but use your outside voice. Say it with your chest. All right, we need to slow some things down right now. This is going a little faster than I anticipated or was prepared for. I just need to take a little step back. Be forthcoming with your communication. If you need more time, set something specific. Hey, can we reel that back? Can we come back to this in 5 minutes so I can get my head together?
Yeah, don't be afraid, by the way, and to write things down when you're dealing with some stuff too.
Absolutely, write things down.
Write things down. Don't interrupt what the person's saying. All right, let them talk,
because that'll especially help you with looking at it. Because have you ever been in a situation and somebody comes back at you with, "Did you hear what you just said?" I feel like that sounded better on the way out. Are you sure you wanted that to come out that way?
And then you got to ask yourself, did I? Fuck, what did I just say? Everybody's so quick to get ready to respond that a lot of times they forget what they said the moment they say it. It's just out there now.
But in looking at your triggers, once again, that's a thing that you can unpack. Why did that bother me? Is it something that they said? Is it how they said it? Is it how I perceived it when they said it? Because we could be talking about anything and you mishear drown somebody like a sack of cats. That may not at all have been what they meant, but that just might have been how you heard it.
And you got to give people the opportunity to explain what they mean, too. You can't just be like, what did you just say? You're not allowed to say that. You can't say that because, hey, whoa, stop the spiral. Stop the attack. You're having a conversation. You're not in combat. Chill.
And I also think we have grossly misused and warped the word debate. I'm going to tell y'all right now, the purpose of engaging in debate is not necessarily to change someone's mind, but it's for everybody involved to come away with a different perspective. Full stop.
Yeah, none of this like bread tube. We're all going to get on a panel and talk about black folk issues with one black guy, 8 white folks of different descending orientations and opinions. It's an interesting thing, the sea of YouTube when you realize everybody's talking about brown people issues, but very few of them are talking to brown people
Two
about
brown
them.
people about their own issues. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's pretty
What?
interesting. Yeah, I've always found that interesting. Just wow. Anyway,
You know, one factor that I guess you could say will add an extra layer or basically just make something visible that a lot of people don't look at. All right, so if you notice throughout, you know, the talk so far, you got two words that came up, probably one more so than the other. You had feeling, and then you had being, right? Because even in listening, like you heard Cap saying, like you know, even when you're triggered, like you feel it coming on, you stop, you start looking at why you doing it. Look at what kind of person do you have to be, Cap, to even be one of those people that'll stop and look at it? Because you know there's some people who don't even care enough to actually stop and consider these things. So the feeling part is actually just that's the part you don't really have control over. The feeling part, the feeling comes as a result of who you're being in that moment. If you're being, oh, I'm a victim, then of course you're going to have a feeling of, oh, I'm being attacked, now I got to lash out, things like this. And then the difference between feeling and being is that you have a choice over who you can be in a situation. You may not necessarily be able to control how you feel about a situation, but you can choose who you're going to be. Am I going to be the person to make it worse? Or am I going to be the person that's going to resolve the conflict? And then once you make that choice, then your actions, everything else has to reflect that. If you've made a choice that this is who I'm going to be in this situation, your actions and everything else are going to be a manifestation of that. So if you start there, then you have more control over yourself and the situation and the direction and the flow. Because if you're gonna be peace, you're listening for peace. So you're listening for, in their conversation, what are they giving you that will allow you to resolve the conflict, as opposed to, oh, I'm offended at this thing. Because in that situation, you're being conflict. You're saying, okay, I'm looking for the things in that conversation I can be conflicted with. You know, so
and that, you know, you were just asking what, you know, how do you be that kind of person? And in my experience, it has been authenticity.
there you go.
Like, and a lot of people get confused when you use the term authenticity, right? What I mean is, right, I'm not going into this trying to fight with you. I'm not going into this trying to argue or yell and scream, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to understand. Period. I want to understand why this thing was done, what led to it, and how we can either prevent it from happening again, or if I need to remove myself permanently from the situation. That's it.
Understanding.
There's no, like, being malicious behind it. There's no trying to overwhelmingly seize control of a situation. You know, it's like when you're having a conversation with somebody, right? And then a third person interjects themselves and wants to talk about how great their life is. Y'all ever had this moment? Like, say you're talking to somebody. And we could even do this in a two-way conversation, just a regular convo. You're talking to somebody and they ask you how you are. How you been? And you don't even get to finish what you're saying before they start telling you about them and how they're doing and how their life is. And, oh, they've got this problem with their mom. Oh, she's overbearing and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. 60-year-old boyfriend issues, whatever. But you noticed something about that person, right?
Yeah, what's that?
Was that conversation ever about checking in with you, or was that conversation about them getting to talk about themselves? You see, you engaged in this conversation as the authentic person going, oh, this is my friend, and I wish to have a conversation with them. Or, oh, my friend wishes to tell me something and explain something to me. I'm all ears. They went into this going, ah, good. Somebody I can tell about what is going on with me. Yes, a captive audience. And it's interesting when people have that reaction to conversations. It's interesting when people have that reaction to basic friendships in general. Because at that point, you have to realize that's not your friend. Y'all know what the term love bombing is?
Love bombing?
I've only heard it.
Y'all, all right. Love bombing is, say it's been like, like,
Oh, I think I know where you're going.
it's been like 3 months you ain't heard from somebody. And then by Dexter,
Out of nowhere.
hey, how have you been? Oh my God, you've been doing so great. I saw on your pages that you've been doing yada yada and blah blah blah, and oh, you've been working with these people and this. Oh, so you know, I just want to let you know you're an awesome person. You're amazing, and you just do great stuff and blah blah blah. Just out of fucking nowhere, you ain't heard from them in months. Like they've been posting stuff, they've been living their life, right? And then they just want to come out of nowhere and let you know you're the most amazing person in the world, you're great, and blah, 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 and they just really want to catch up. Oh, by the way, I'm also having issues in my love life.
And here comes Trojan Horse.
The love bombing is literally like a emotional Trojan horse. They leave, and then when they're like, oh, well, I want to get back in this person's good graces, and it could be, in this instance, oh, this person's fun to talk to. But I know I haven't maintained communication with that person. So what's a good way for me to get back? Oh, I know that usually they don't have a lot of people around them that, you know, talk to them and say nice, you know. So I'm gonna say the things that I know they like to hear, so I can get back in there real quick, so I can have that free person to vent to and stuff again. And they only do these kind acts as a leeway to get back in. That's all it is. Dry spell, and then suddenly out of nowhere, you're the greatest thing ever. They've missed you so much. Oh my God, there's so much stuff they gotta tell you. Da da blah. Can't wait. And then after they get what they need, you know, that conversation, that pep talk, gone again.
Did you steal my portal gum?
Like,
How the fuck?
hey man, look, it's
Leave the
for the
stuff laying around.
hey, you. All I'm gonna say is, I guess maybe it fell out in the passenger seat. You know, the eternal crevice that is the in between the transmission and the seats. Portal gum gets lost, wallets get lost, keys. Only thing I haven't lost in between the seat and the damn console is Dexter at this point. Anyway. But the act of coming out of nowhere, showing all the love and affection in the world.
Oh, you mean comets? That's a common problem in the polyamorous community. That one
Y'all use the term comets for
that one back and forth
Word.
pseudo partner that just show up every once in a while, and it's great when they're there, but when they're gone, you can tell they fucking gone. And I'm like everybody's black grandma in the South, in out, pick one.
Let my goddamn ear out.
Got my love bill sky fucking high.
That shit sounds exhausting.
It is. I'm sick of it. Need not apply here.
So, all right, you guys ready for the Wikipedia definition of what love bombing is?
Sure.
All right. So, according to Wikipedia, love bombing is an attempt to influence a person by demonstrations of attention and affection. It can be used in different ways and for either positive or negative purposes. Psychologists have identified love bombing as a possible part of a cycle of abuse.
Oh, yeah.
And have warned against it.
Yeah, in
love
that
bombing
context.
is also heavily associated with narcissistic behavior. Just letting y'all know that. So all you people that are like, nah, it's not that I'm a bad friend. I just go live my life, and then, I just come in to check.
Yeah.
Y'all are actually abusing the shit out of your friends.
As a survivor of abuse and toxic relationships alike, yeah, love bombing in that context is in fact a stage of a cycle of abuse. Well, they'll do something terrible and then try to make up for it with all this, oh, but I love you, and gifts, and yada yada, and time, and all this stuff you were asking for before I put my hands on you, and could have just saved you all that by keeping my hands to my fucking self.
And then when they've got that, they give you all those compliments and
When
stuff
they
like that.
build you back up,
And then
that's when
they turn it off.
Yep.
They just turn it right off, and they withhold affection,
yeah.
they withhold communication, everything, and then they just leave you going, what did I do? Oh my God, what did I do?
That's toxic. That's
I want
abusive.
y'all to understand.
Stop doing it.
More of y'all do that to each other than you think, and I want you to actually sit down and think about it. Is there a friend, is there a person in your life where you do this to unintentionally? See, we're not calling you a bad guy. We're asking you, now that you're aware of it, do you do this? And just like we always say, crewman, live your life. Just don't fuck anybody else.
And instead of now that you've identified it, instead of sitting there, beating yourself up and feeling like a piece of shit, here's the alternative. Here's what you do. All right, so we have this thing called acknowledgement. All right, so when you talk to people, the acknowledgement isn't blowing smoke up somebody's ass. What we're saying is, if you're going to reconnect with a person that you either haven't connected with in a while, or you may have had some negativity in the past, there's nothing that you can do or say that will get through in the way that you want to until you acknowledge the thing that was standing between y'all in the first place. It should simply be, it doesn't have to get into morality or any of that stuff. It's just, I acknowledge that I haven't spoken to you in a while. I acknowledge that I did this or that. Here's the business that I'm here. So state your business, and then give them the freedom, give them the opportunity to decide whether they want to deal with you or not. And then whichever they pick, you just have to take it and leave. Take it and go. So if it's all right, here's I acknowledge that happened. Here's why I'm calling. If they're like, I don't want to deal with you. All right, you have an excellent day. Bye-bye. Leave it the fuck alone. If they do invite you in, don't make it a thing. And don't take them down the memory lane and the roller coaster, whatever. Stay on the business that you said that you were going to be on that call, and then leave it at that. And then if y'all start to connect after that, hey, of course you may have to rebuild bridges and rebuild relationship fresh from there. But if you do exactly what you came to, that falls into exactly what he said, authenticity or whatever. State your business, leave it at that.
And remember this, when you're dealing with folks that are like, and I'm not talking like people who, now there are people who just have intense emotions and whatnot. Now, if they are intense people, but they're also consistently intense people, that's different.
Yeah, you can deal with it.
You can deal with that. Me being one of those intense people.
No surprise.
Yeah, a lot. My crewmen know how to deal with me. But the thing is, I'm on 11 24/7. Now, a person that goes from 11 to 0, 11, 0, 11, 0. Now, how do you deal with that? Crewman, I would like to introduce you to a technique that I learned long ago. You make yourself appear to be the most boring person to engage with, and they will leave you alone. I know, it sounds crazy, but hear me out. They come to you because they have that need that they need fulfilled by you. The moment you do not fulfill that need, they will leave you alone. Now, this works, but it will be painful. Because if it works, it answers a question that you never asked. It points out to you that an individual that you held in high regard may not be best to keep in your life. Now, you can do with that discovery what you will. And in many cases, most cases, you're probably going to give the person another chance. But if you decide not to, and if you decide, hey, well, now I know. After they lose interest, and after they just hee back off into the wind, let them stay gone. You will be okay. You don't need them. You don't need their verification. You don't need their validation. You don't need them to feel like you're a decent person, that you're doing well. You know how you know you're a decent person nowadays and that you're doing well? Well, who do they come to feel better about themselves? Who do they come to have to talk about how great their life is and how perfectly their chakras have been aligned and how their third eye was open last week when they met so-and-so and all this other stuff? They come to you. You who you think has nothing to offer. You who you think his life is so boring. Oh, yeah. You know, a lot of people look at a rock and they think it's boring. And they think it's just a rock. But man, there is something incredibly consistent in the state of being a good rock. Bro, you're not boring. You're just only changed by time. And that's okay. But just because you're rock doesn't mean you gotta let those assholes show up in your life and try to roll you. If you get my drift. You know, I'm sure communication, C-Win, would have helped our little wannabe samurai from back in the day.
It would have helped us all.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
Where the fuck would we have learned it?
Oh man, let me tell you. You know, y'all remember when I was telling you last week about...
I'm gonna break out the tome of things your mother should have taught you, but somehow didn't one of these days.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody teach her?
Well, I mean, hey, look.
No, they taught her, and then she expected me to know without telling me. What the fuck is that? One more piece on education, effective communication.
Excuse me? We're not talking about parents right now.
We're talking about effective communication,
No,
and
we've only got 5 minutes left in the show, and
it's gonna take me 2.
We're not about to take up 2 minutes of my 5 minutes.
Do a hot take because I gotta go.
Exactly. Unspoken expectations are premeditated disappointments. Oh, look how fast.
Okay. Okay. Shit. Yeah, I was literally in the beginning of telling a story for the wrap up.
And the communication.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. But no, that was very poignant. CJ, run that through one more time. Go ahead and say it so I can make sure I get it nice and clear on there.
Unspoken expectations are only premeditated disappointments.
And with that vibe, I have our tale for the day. Y'all remember our little friend, that he who was once me, and Chris pointing out to me that I was basically in a fucking gang growing up. Go figure.
Yep.
Damn it.
Try to avoid the gang bang, but hey.
Yo, and of course I would go Yakuza mode with the shit too, man. Jesus. Anyway. You know, I really do wish I had those communication skills back then. You know, back when me and John the Wolf were ripping and running up and down the streets, taking in all these found family folks, and, you know, he was banging most of them, but that's beside the point. He had a thing for doing that, man.
Banging strays.
Yeah, just banging strays. Like we'd find people. We had this found family kind of thing, and then like he just kind of had this otherworldly elder elf like charisma to him, where these girls would just. It was. I was like, oh, another stray. Oh Lord. Another one? Oh, you know about the other ones, right? Of course you do. I will give him that. They usually knew about each other. And then there was like this bizarre anime like competition.
Harem.
Yeah, he had this bizarre like harem anime setup, man. And I guess when you had that in your mid-20s, how the hell are you supposed to settle down in your late 30s? I had options, now I have nothing. But back during that time, if only I had told my brother how much I disliked the way he did things. Like, man, we were men of honor, right? You know, we were really big on, if you had a disagreement with somebody, you tried to talk it out. If you couldn't talk it out, y'all went out back, somebody else watched over it to make sure it didn't get too bad, and y'all scrapped. But it was like this unspoken rule that you couldn't point out things that you were like, That's fucky. When you're not able to do that, when you don't have the tools to do that, it makes life difficult. It makes a lot of things you do and a lot of things you go through seem like challenges and seem like unclimbable mountains. And at that point in my life, well, I had enough mountains to climb. So asking hard questions just wasn't in the bag. But man, oh man, if I did, part of me believes maybe I could have saved my brother a lot of pain. Maybe he'd be better off than he is now. If instead of going, very well, I'll fight your critics, but you need to clean up your mess. Maybe instead I should have just told him, no man, you're a fucking mess. Clean this shit up yourself. Crewman, there's no shame in looking your own brother, sister, whomever in the eyes and going, this is your mess. I need you to clean it up. I can't do it for you. Because yeah, if you're willing to fight every battle for them, hear me. If you are willing to fight every battle for them, they will let you. Don't break your sword over a goddamn rock that only time can change.
Hey, I'm about to say peace. I gotta handle this.
Sounds good. And now that we are motivated for another week, crewmen, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. Join us on this fantastic voyage. For those of you that are in the Macon area, Tuesday evenings, Triangle Arts. Got an opinion? Got an idea? Want to just sit down and talk with folks? We'd love to see you. Be fantastic. Chi, give the folks your little sign off.
Drink your water. Take them meds. Be good to each other. Be good to yourself. You are a whole human being requiring of grace and kindness and understanding. And if you don't take your birth control every day at the same time, it does not work because consistency is key.
And with that, crewman, remember, live well, wild out, stay mad.